the bench and the bar with us tonight. Thank you all for your continued support of Albany Law School. Jeff, are you able to, oh yeah, right, okay, perfect. So you can go to the next one. For those of you who are new to the Kate Stoneman program, you are in for a real treat. This event celebrates the goal of gender equality in the law. It is named for the first woman to graduate from Albany Law School, Catherine Stoneman, class of 1898. Kate Stoneman challenged the discriminatory laws of her day. She became the first woman admitted to practice law in the state of New York in 1886. In 2009, Kate Stoneman was inducted into the National Women's Hall of Fame in Seneca Falls, New York. And we love, especially to celebrate her in March when we can, Women's History Month. On a personal level, I always feel particularly honored to be a part of Kate Stoneman Day. 19 years ago, when I visited Albany Law School as a faculty candidate, my visit coincided fortuitously with Kate Stoneman Day. After staying for the Stoneman program, it became quite clear to me that I had found my home. I knew then, in 2002, that I was definitely going to accept this offer. And even after 19 years of teaching here, I still get goosebumps on Kate Stoneman Day. So it's such an honor and an inspiration to be a small part of the celebration today. Tonight, 3 more women will join our prestigious circle of Kate Stoneman Award recipients, bringing the total up above 90 of extraordinary individuals who have been honored since the program started in 1994. I would like to take a moment to ask any and all former or current Stoneman Award recipients who are with us tonight to please unmute and say present.
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 I'm present.
Present.
And now could we all have unmute ourselves and applaud these tremendous people. You all continue to amaze and inspire us. At this time, I also wish to acknowledge those that helped to make today possible. Most notably, Jeff Sieber, Lauren Manow, Jeff Shands, Tom Torello, Ben Myers, and the Women's Law Caucus. We can go back to the PowerPoint. We also owe thanks and gratitude to our honorary Kate Stoneman Committee. We were thrilled to reconstitute the larger alumni honorary Kate Stoneman Committee about 3 years ago. And it's really been wonderful to work again with this great group of staff, faculty, law students, and tremendous alums who share a common goal and vision. Also, I wanted to recognize that it was a member of that committee, Professor Christine Chung, who brought the keynote and her remarkable achievements to the committee's attention. So thank you to Professor Chung for bringing Nancy to our attention. It was the same honorary committee who 2 years ago, when we celebrated our 25th anniversary, added several special touches to our programming. And we kept a few of those unique touches for tonight's celebration. Jeff, do you have the this PowerPoint, or should I use mine? Okay. Terrific. Okay. So we can go to the next slide. One such idea was actually arranged or suggested by committee member Professor Pat Rahan, among others, was to start a new tradition to honor keynote speakers who are no longer with us. And each year we will honor Stoneman Award recipients who have passed on. Last time we were able to honor Judge Wald, Patricia Wald, and Judge Constance Baker Motley. This year we honor Ruth Miner, class of 1920. And about an hour ago, Jeff Sieber sent you our program. Obviously, it's not a printed program. It's a beautiful program, but it's not printed. But if you click on the link, you can see an 8-page program, not printed, but it's all beautifully laid out, and you'll see that Ruth Miner is in fact honored there. And as you all know, that this program was originally scheduled, thank you for putting that in the chat, it's now in the chat. Originally, this program was set to occur March 2020. And of course, due to COVID, we had to reschedule. But at the time, the committee just loved the symmetry of 100 years, 2020, class of 1920, not so dissimilar with the passage of women's right to vote. So we sort of loved that idea. So we kept it around, even though it's 2021, we'll just pretend for a bit it's still 2020. But as I read, I didn't know that much about Ruth Miner. And as I read more about her, my heart was warmed because I too started my early career as a legal aid attorney working with women and children. And that's exactly what Ruth Miner did. She was the first counsel for the Albany Legal Aid Society. And in that role, she assisted poor women and children. And this is my shout out to Lillian Moy, the current executive director. Later, Ruth Miner served in Albany as Executive Deputy Secretary of State and as a trustee here at Albany Law School. She was, again, the first attorney for the Legal Aid Society, and she worked part-time for merely $50 per month. Oftentimes, her cases were for de minimis amounts. When asked why she sought judgment in cases involving as little as $1, Miner replied, "Justice is not measured by the amount of money. Justice is an idea." Kate Stoneman would have loved that sentiment. Another special touch for tonight that we are excited to continue came about in an honorary committee meeting for the 25th anniversary as well. And that's the idea of the Catherine D. Katz Student Prize. More on that soon. One last thing is that we wanted to let our audience know how you could get involved with Kate Stoneman. If you're interested in becoming more involved, you can join our honorary committee. And we also have an amazing women's leadership initiative. You can donate to the Stoneman Fund, which funds our Student Stoneman Fellow, like the terrific Megan Bassler, class of 2021, and our inaugural Candace Williamson. They're both in the audience today. And our Stoneman Chair in Law and Democracy, held by the inspirational Professor Mary Lynch. There are many ways to get involved. And if you are interested in becoming involved in Stoneman Day, feel free to send a private chat in the Zoom to Jeff Sieber or to myself, or even better, email us after today, and we'll get you involved with Stoneman Day. But at this time, I am delighted to introduce you to my colleague of 19 years and our dean. She is only the second female dean and president in Albany Law School history. She has helped inspire the law school in so many ways. Please give thanks and a warm welcome to Dean Alicia Lewett.
Thank you, Professor Brieger, and welcome everyone. I'm so pleased to welcome all of you to Albany Law School's 26th anniversary Kate Stoneman Day. And I'm really delighted to see so many friends and colleagues in the audience. I wish we were all together in the DAMC with a wonderful reception, but the organizers have put together a really wonderful program today, and we are in for a real treat. I want to particularly welcome and thank our amazing award recipients. I'm proud that Albany Law School will be honoring an Associate Justice of the Appellate Division 3rd Department and Albany Law alumna, Christine Clark, a fellow law school dean and longtime Albany Law faculty member, and our friend and colleague, Donna Young, and our keynote speaker, Olympic gold medalist and civil rights lawyer, Nancy Hogshead-Makar. These women, like Kate Stoneman, are strong, intelligent, and driven individuals who are writing their own stories. As I'm sure you know, Kate Stoneman was the first woman to graduate from Albany Law and the first woman admitted to practice law in New York State. But before she could be admitted, Kate had to overcome incredible obstacles. She was denied admittance to the bar in New York State solely because she was a woman, but there was no denying Kate. She lobbied successfully to change the laws, and she advocated not just for women. She successfully convinced New York to change its laws so that no person would again be denied admittance to the bar based on gender or race. She was intersectional before any of us had even been born. In May of 1886, having succeeded in changing the law, Kate reapplied and became New York's first woman lawyer. Kate once said, "The present day presents greater opportunity than ever before for women." This was an incredibly optimistic and prescient statement to make at a time when women were lacking many basic rights and decades before they would be able to vote in federal elections. Kate knew that women like her and the women that we honor today would step up and meet the challenges of their times. At Albany Law School, we want to help the next generation of lawyers to be trailblazers like Kate Stoneman, which is why I'm proud to share that this past June, Albany Law launched the Women's Leadership Initiative. This innovative new program helps students build the skills and networks they need to blaze those trails and achieve their goals. Since its inception, hundreds of students, alumni, faculty, and staff have benefited from tailored programs from a certified executive coach, skills training from legal experts, and networking opportunities with alumni and friends of the law school. And I'm very excited to tell you that this September, the Women's Leadership Initiative will continue to grow as we launch a robust fellowship program exclusively for Albany Law students. Just as we count on the generous support of so many of you to advance our Stoneman activities, we couldn't have created the Women's Leadership Initiative without the generous support of our donors and friends. In particular, we can thank Casey Patillo de Cosard, class of 2005, and Timothy O'Hara, class of 1996, for their vision and their support that made this possible. Now back to Stoneman. I want to congratulate our award winners and thank those who made today's event possible. I also want to tell you something. I see Kate Stoneman in our students. I see Kate Stoneman in our faculty members, in our alumni, and in our colleagues. And I especially see Kate Stoneman in our award winners, past and present. What an incredible group. What an inspiring day. It's an honor that you have all chosen to be here today to share this important day for Albany Law School, the 26th anniversary of Kate Stoneman Day. Please enjoy every minute. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dean, for those wonderful remarks. And it is now my absolute honor to start presenting awards. The awardees tonight, as the Dean said, are impressive and inspirational. They have bravely paved paths for so many of us as we rest upon their shoulders and walk in their footsteps. So many parallels exist between the awardees today and our very own Kate Stoneman in their pioneering and trailblazing spirits. Reading their nomination packets were overwhelmingly inspiring in so many ways. Our first award winner is Judge Christine Clark. And I should note that each of our awardees is being introduced by yet another impressive female rock star. And I wish I had the opportunity to also sing the introducers' praises as well, but we might be here well into the wee hours of the night. So all I will say is that Judge Clark will be introduced by another Kate Stoneman awardee, the wonderful presiding Justice Elizabeth Gary.
Thank you. Thank you, Professor Brieger. It's so wonderful to participate in this program and join so many distinguished guests and awardees. Nancy Hogshead-Makar, Dean Young, and the extraordinary individual who I have the distinct honor of both working with and introducing tonight, the Honorable Christine M. Clark. Justice Clark took a rather unique path to the law. Before college and law school, she attended the Alvin Ailey Dance Center in New York City and danced for several years with small modern dance companies. Ultimately, though, she graduated from Columbia University and, of course, Albany Law School. She began her legal career in private practice and then became an assistant district attorney in Schenectady County. She spent 7 years in the district attorney's office, prosecuting sex crimes and child abuse, and she served as the first bureau chief of the office's Special Victims Unit. In that role, she established a multidisciplinary team of child protective workers, police, and community leaders to improve the handling of sexual abuse cases. Justice Clark began her judicial career in Schenectady City Court in 2005. She was then elected to the Family Court in 2010. 2 years later, Justice Clark became the second woman ever elected to Supreme Court within the 4th Judicial District. That was a remarkable achievement. For those of you who don't know, the 4th District includes 11 sizable counties, and it makes up more than 1/4 of New York State's landmass. In 2014, she was appointed to the 3rd Department, and then I first had the good fortune and privilege of working alongside her on the bench. And it has truly been a privilege. Not only is Justice Clark a trailblazer and an outstanding role model for all attorneys, but let me tell you that she is a brilliant, thorough, keenly analytical thinker and writer, and a considerate and collaborative colleague. She is thorough in her review, and the input she offers on every case is consistently and reliably thoughtful and well-reasoned, based upon her broad experience, and also ultimately well-researched. Justice Clark has also demonstrated throughout her career a strong commitment to helping others advance their careers. She has mentored numerous law students as interns in her chambers, and she's supported.
Judge Gary, I think we lost your mute. I think you've gone on
There
to.
we go. Something happened. So
Yes.
I had said that she's mentored, if you heard me, she's mentored a lot of law students as interns and supported women lawyers within the women's bar. And for me, it's been a great pleasure to bear witness to some of that leadership, which is such a fundamental part of who she is in action through the past 7 years. At brown bag lunches, on various panels, in courtroom meetings with high school students as we tour the department. And in short, Justice Clark has a lot to offer, and she does offer that well and regularly. And all while also raising 2 wonderful daughters with great love and devotion. For all of these reasons, and so many more, I'm so pleased that Justice Clark is receiving this great honor this evening. Please join me in congratulating the Honorable Christine M. Clark as a 2021 recipient of the Kate Stoneman Award.
Thank you to Justice Gary, my PJ, for her warm introduction. I'm so lucky to have you as my boss and to be on the Appellate Division with an amazing group of judges and a wonderful staff who many are watching. I also want to congratulate my fellow honorees, Nancy and Donna. They are remarkable women, and I really wish that we were together in person so that we could meet. There is a positive note to us being in this virtual forum, and that is that the many awesome women in my life who normally wouldn't be able to attend are out there watching. My childhood friends, my sisters, my sister-in-law, my nieces, my stepdaughters, and my former au pair who are scattered across this state and country, from Saratoga County to New York City to New Jersey to Pennsylvania to Maine and California. I miss them, and I'm incredibly thankful for them being my phenomenal support network. I also need to recognize another wonderful support network in my life, the Capital District Women's Bar Association and its members who nominated me for this award. I also want to recognize the other huge daily supporters in my life. My loving husband, Bob, is out there somewhere. My fantastic daughters, Isabel and Lainey, and my hardworking staff, Andrea and Chelsea. I love you all. I'm truly honored and humbled to be receiving this award. I recall being a law student when the first Kate Stoneman Awards were given in 1994. I never imagined then that one day I would be a recipient of the Kate Stoneman Award. When thinking about these remarks, I kept thinking about how much Albany Law School has given me. It gave me models and mentors such as Judge May D'Agostino, Judge Leslie Stein, Attorney Chris Chaffee, all former awardees. It gave me moot court and taught me how to argue, although my sisters might say that I was born arguing. Albany Law School gave me lifelong friends, particularly those from the class of '96 who are present out there, Alyssa Turgan-Hook, Lisa Brown, and Tina and Vince Versace. It gave me opportunities, such as an externship at the U.S. Attorney's Office with Barbara Cottrell, another former awardee, which led directly to a job at Dreyer Boyajian, which then led me on to the Schenectady County District Attorney's Office with Bob Carney, another alum. And it was Bob who years later vouched for me with the then Mayor Brian Stratton, who appointed me to City Court Judge, and my judicial career was born. Albany Law School has given me all of my very intelligent, smarter than me court attorneys, Tatiana Cuffinger, Erica Putnam-Little, and Chelsea Cerruti Ducharme. I have to take a moment to talk about Chelsea because she amazes me on a daily basis. She's a wonder to work with, and she not only takes care of me, but she takes care of twin 3-year-old boys, and I'm really not sure which is harder for her. This institution gave me not only a first-rate legal education, but connections and a community that I cherish. I look at this community of talented women, Dean Alicia Lewett, Professor Melissa Brieger, Professor Sarah Rogerson, Professor Patricia Rahan, Dean Rosemary Queenan, and so many others. And I think how far we have come from when Kate Stoneman was a student here. I know I am not alone in my deep appreciation and gratitude for all that Albany Law has given me. In the years since Kate Stoneman attended, think of the number of exceptional female attorneys that Albany Law has raised. I have encountered them every step of my career, and I continue to see them whenever they appear before me at the Appellate Division and when they intern for me. In conclusion, and I hope that this short quote isn't too much of a cliche, but it allows me to acknowledge how strong Kate Stoneman must have been to be that first exceptional female attorney that this institution raised. So, here's to strong women. May we know them, may we be them, and may we raise them. Kudos to Albany Law School for raising me and for continuing to raise so many strong women attorneys. Thank you.
Thank you so much for those beautiful remarks, Judge. And at this time, I would like to show you what we're going to mail to you. And I wish I could be giving this to you in person.
Oh, it's
Judge
beautiful.
Clark, for your record of extraordinary achievements and commitments to the ideals of Kate Stoneman, we are honored to present you with the 2021 Kate Stoneman Award.
I have it here. I have my bowl. I don't think you can see. Oh, there it is.
Yeah, there's the bowl that we did mail to her. Please, let's unmute yourselves and applaud Judge Clark.
Thank
Those
you.
of us in sports are a little noisy.
Thank you.
Thank you so much to Judge Gary and Judge Clark. It is now my honor to talk about our next award winner, who is another extraordinary woman and someone who is near and dear to so many of us at Albany Law School. And in fact, it was very difficult to decide who, in fact, would introduce her. We did have a bit of a fight. And in the end, we decided it was only fair that the wonderful Katrina Young, class of 2020, would introduce her. And I'll explain how she won. But we are really, really thrilled to introduce now Dean, the founding dean of Ryerson Law School, Dean Donna Young, known to all of us as just Donna. Here to present her tonight with her award is an outstanding former law student, Katrina Young, 2020. And why it is so significant that Katrina, otherwise known as Kat, is introducing her tonight is that Professor and Dean Young was nominated by two beautiful letters that were co-signed by more than 60 law students, among others, who raved about Donna and her intellect and her path-breaking classes and her mentorship. So it is only fitting that we hear the students' voices themselves. Kat, take it away.
Thank you for Professor Brecker. I hope everyone could see me. If you don't hear me, please let me know. So, without further ado, Dean Donna Young doesn't need an introduction, but I'm going to give her one anyway. Her presence and accomplishment speaks for itself. As the former President William McKinley Distinguished Professor of Law and Public Policy at Albany Law School, she provided challenging curriculums for students. For example, she developed a course called Race, Rape, Culture, and the Law in coordination with Professor Janelle Hobson of SUNY Albany. This course exposed relationships of power and coercion in the development of our nation's laws as they relate to the intersections of identity, mainly race and gender. Students were confronted to some of the worst moments of our history, such as slavery and sexual harassment laws, with a hope for a better future. Also, students were encouraged to critically evaluate the intersections of their own identities and determine how we reconcile power, privilege, and oppression with the law. This course pretty much was one of the best legal courses that I've ever attended. Furthermore, students took advantage of our open door policy to discuss their law school experience as well as their own career paths. Her open door policy has led to touching the community at large. Now, Donna Young is a founding dean at Ryerson University in Toronto. Since she has become the founding dean at Ryerson University, she has been recognized as a new arrival in Toronto's Life magazine's most influential list for 2020, and this year's top 25 women of influence. So we will also be celebrating that as well. Similar to the pioneer champion of women's equality in the legal profession, Kate Stoneman, Donna Young is a champion of gender and racial equality under the law and in our criminal justice system. She is an advocate for reforming the very broken aspects of our society by speaking at rallies, including the Women's March in Albany, and by participating in panels. In addition, in the wake of Me Too movement and the rise of speaking out about sexual harassment, Dean Donna Young has contributed her expertise on the legal parameters of workplace sexual harassment on multiple news outlets in the area. We love to see this Kate Stoneman recipient strive in her legal career. She has impacted students and alumni such as myself to remain true to ourselves and to use her teachings to make the best memorable experiences and what is to come in our legal careers. So without further ado, I, along with Jisaki, former BOSA president who couldn't be here with us tonight, are honored to present the award to Dean Donna Young.
Thanks, Katrina, and congratulations to my fellow honorees. And thank you to the Kate Stoneman Committee, all of my wonderful former students and colleagues who nominated me for this award. I'm especially honored to have received this award because Kate Stoneman has meant so much to me and to Albany Law for the entire time that I taught at Albany Law. During my very first year of teaching, I sat on the first Kate Stoneman committee, and that was way back in 1944, which kind of sometimes feels like that, 1994. I'm honored to be in the same company with today's awardees and with the incredible women who have received the award in the past, and one man who received the award in the past, and that is Professor Bernie Harveth, who introduced Albany's first Women in the Law course. Kate Stoneman's contributions to women's empowerment, education, and the practice of law are numerous. And Albany Law has a lot of other trailblazing alums, many of whom have come before me as Kate Stoneman Award winners, and one of whom is with us here today. And I wanted to mention, who's honored today. I wanted to mention just one other, and that's James Campbell Matthews, who is another Albany Law trailblazer who was born 3 years after Kate Stoneman, but whose law career took a somewhat different path. He was the first Black judge in New York and was nominated by President Grover Cleveland to succeed Frederick Douglass as the Recorder of Deeds in Washington, D.C. His name is not as well known as Kate Stoneman's, but his contributions were also significant. And it was a privilege to have been part of a faculty who sent these two alums out into the profession to change the world. So I left the law school just over a year ago, but because of the pandemic, I was not really able to properly say goodbye. So I appreciate this opportunity to return to the law school with a special sense of pride as a former member of the faculty and one of dozens of faculty and staff members over the years who nurtured our students, their learning and their ambition, and who helped to send them out into the profession equipped to make an impact and change the world. Albany Law holds an important place in history, and I'm delighted to have been part of that history. Thank you.
Melissa, you're on mute.
Thank you. You know, you think I'd figure it out by now. So to Dean Donna Young, thank you for those inspirational comments. We miss you for your record of extraordinary achievement and commitment to the ideals of Kate Stoneman. We are honored to present you with the 2021 Kate Stoneman Award, which will come in the mail to Toronto. We've already sent you the bowl, which we see is beautifully displayed in your house. And if everybody could please unmute and applaud Dean and Professor Donna Young.
Thank you.
Miss you.
Thank you, Donna. I think there's going to be a lot in the chat, so I'll let the chat kind of percolate a bit while everybody sends you notes. And I want to actually just have another round of applause for our first two 2021 Kate Stoneman Day recipients. One more round of applause. Thank you both very much for your inspirational words. And we will now turn to yet another prize, something a little different that we mentioned earlier. When we were planning the 25th anniversary, Betsy Katz, who is the daughter of our beloved Kathy Katz, as well as alum Amy Kellogg, class of 2002, and then later Professor Lori Shanks, generously offered to fund a Catherine D. Katz Student Prize. They challenged our current law students to describe how Kate Stoneman had inspired them and what she would be fighting for had she been alive today. The students were encouraged to use any medium to describe their inspiration. The awards subcommittee had the pleasure of reading through inspiring poems and groundbreaking legal research papers and other creative ways to honor Kate Stoneman. These law students exhibited such creativity and insight in their impressive responses to the contest. The 2021, well, really the 2020 winner is Jessica Haller, who's class of 2021, and we're so delighted that she's here with us today. And her unique submission was entitled, "What if social media had been around when Kate Stoneman were alive?" Jess actually recreated 6 actual tweets in her submission, 2 past, 2 present, and 2 future tweets, with all the hashtags you can imagine. My favorite 2 were when Kate was pretending that she was tweeting when Sandra Day O'Connor first joined the court and said, "I didn't think this was possible," and when there are 9. And then later when Kate Stoneman was our actual first woman president, paving the way. Wouldn't that have been nice? I will read just an excerpt of Jessica's introduction to her tweets. She wrote, "If social media were around when Kate Stoneman was alive, I'd like to think that she would have used it as a way to further publicize her accomplishments and the accomplishments of women that followed in her path. I chose Twitter as Kate's social media platform and the hashtag paving the way for her to embody Kate's legacy for generations of women to come." It was a tremendous submission that we really enjoyed having. And we have for her an award as well, which we will mail, or maybe we can actually hand deliver this one, that we will give to you for your inspiration and creativity. And if everybody could please unmute and give a round of applause to class of 2021, Jessica Haller.
Yes.
And also for all the students that submitted, we're so appreciative and we just loved reading about it. And to thanks for our donors who made the prize possible. Thank you. And thank you, Jess. All right, we can go back to the PowerPoint. And it is now time to hear from our keynote speaker. The 2021 Miriam M. Netter Kate Stoneman Day Award recipient is someone who has excelled on so many levels. She is an outstanding Olympic athlete, a remarkable civil rights lawyer, a strong champion and voice for girls and women in all aspects of sport. She is Nancy Hogshead-Makar, and we are so excited that she's here with us tonight. In light of the current events that we've all been reading about and the horrific abuse that we keep hearing that our female athletes have undergone repeatedly, Nancy has taken a stand in so many ways against gender inequality and how it has played out in the sports arena. Just last year, she was instrumental in having a federal statute passed that restructured the Olympic movement, 16 million athletes actually it covers, gave the U.S. Center for Safe Sport $20 million a year, gave athletes 33% of voting power on boards and commissions. And she's being introduced today by yet another superstar, Donna E, who also has paved the way for so many women by being the first female sports broadcaster on network television. We are so honored to have these tremendous trailblazing women with us tonight. And I turn it over to them. Thank you for being with us.
Well, thank you. First of all, I want to congratulate all the awardees and the 174 people that have joined the Zoom gathering to honor each other. It's a privilege to introduce my friend and colleague, Nancy Hogshead-Makar, as the recipient of the prestigious Miriam M. Netter Stoneman Award. Nancy is, in the very best definition, a champion of all things. I had the opportunity of meeting her and covering her Olympic races when she captured an amazing three gold and 1 silver medal during 1984 Los Angeles Olympics in swimming. Our relationship began when I was invited to speak to the team. That chance meeting began what has been a lifetime of friendship. At first, she might tell you I was her mentor, but now it's totally the other way around. For Nancy, those Olympics was just the beginning of a lifetime of excellence. Indeed, fame, accolades, and success have all come her way, including 35 recognitions and honors and still counting. However, all of those accolades, while impressive, are not what motivates Nancy. Nancy is no stranger to daunting personal injury and career setbacks, but instead of giving up, she has used these experiences to promote, support, and even legislate change within America's sporting landscape. In 1980, as a high school senior, Nancy qualified for her very first Olympic team in 2 of swimming's most grueling events, the 400-meter individual medley, which comprises all 4 strokes, and the 200-meter butterfly. Maybe that's why she can multitask so well. Overjoyed that her hard work had paid off in 1980, Nancy's dream of representing Team USA was cruelly and abruptly put on hold when then President Carter, seeking re-election, politicized the Moscow Olympics by mandating the US boycott the Games in retaliation to the Soviet invasion of Afghanistan. With no say in this decision, and along with the rest of America's Olympians, all would have to wait and train for another 4 years. She had learned my son always calls me in the middle of these things. She had learned at a young age how the powerless with no voice lost out on a lifetime of hard work. She experienced firsthand the power of the US government to pressure some 60 other nations to join Carter's ill-fated campaign, effectively destroying the trust and commitment of thousands of other young athletes worldwide. Thus, the seeds were planted for Nancy's activism post-retiring. She wanted athletes to have a voice in all matters. She wanted to right many wrongs. Fortunately, the next year, Nancy became the beneficiary of a Title IX scholarship at Duke University. She was the first woman to get offered that opportunity. While there, she went undefeated in dual meets, setting school records in 18 different events that lasted well into many, many years. Training in college during the height of her athletic maturity honed her talents, helping her prepare for the '84 Los Angeles Olympics. However, in 1981, while jogging on Duke's campus, fate put her in the path of a predator. She was assaulted, dragged into the bushes, and raped. She fought off her attacker, but found little help when reporting the incident to her college administrators. Law enforcement, as well as university policies and procedures, simply did not exist. Victim blaming resulted in devastating and long-lasting consequences. Nancy suffered from PTSD and quit training. Depression set in, but with the urging of her coach, she returned to the pool, and the sport helped put her back on the right path. Success in 1984 as the most decorated swimmer of the entire Olympic Games helped her regain confidence, and I believed helped fuel her aspirations to devote her entire life to the protection and support of girls and women in the sporting world. They say the medal of a champion is the ability to come back from a setback. As you all know, Nancy has proven her medal tenfold. No one athlete, male or female, I say this again, no one athlete, male or female, has been as impactful as Nancy has. Her areas of focus you mentioned include equal play, such as traditional Title IX compliance in athletic departments, sexual harassment, abuse, and assault, as well as employment, pregnancy, and LGBTQ discrimination within sport. She's been an author of many, many articles and a book. In the area of policy, Nancy has been relentless, After 30 years of association with the Women's Sports Foundation, wearing many hats, first as an intern right out of the competitive world, then moving up to the board, president, legal advisor, and finally senior director of advocacy, she finally left the organization to devote her talents full-time to advocacy and founded Champion Women. As the CEO of the nonprofit organization, Nancy provides legal advice for girls and women in sport. In fact, Champion Women is Nancy Hogshead. Since creating Champion Women, Nancy has successfully led an 8-year effort to protect athletes from harassment. We've all read about the Nassar case, but she started way before that with abuses in swimming and other sports. She wants to protect athletes in club and Olympic sports. Most recently, she galvanized the sport, child protection, and civil rights communities in support of a new federal law, the Safe Sports Act, which was signed into law in February of 2018. Concurrently, she has led a successful campaign to amend the Ted Stevens Amateur Sports Act to protect and elevate the role of athletes within the structure of the organization while holding Olympic leadership accountable and NGB leadership accountable. In amassing the support of some 550 Olympians, Paralympians, world champions, 135 coaches, and 12 civil rights lawyers, her efforts has already motivated change within the U.S. Olympic and Paralympic Committee and has resulted in congressional action to establish an oversight commission through the Empowering Olympics, Paralympics, and Amateur Athletes Act of 2020. Champion Women has empowered current students to take legal action in almost every single Title IX sex discrimination case concerning continued sex discrimination and disparities within the high school and college communities. She's been a force in protecting and having the NCAA and university put back sports that were cut under the COVID of the epidemic. Additionally, Champion Women called universities to task by publishing the following facts in respect to how universities are failing women and not in compliance with Title IX. For example, women lost out on 183,000 sports opportunities compared to men. In scholarships, they got less than $972 million, and in department funds, more than $162,000. Currently, $1 million, sorry. Currently, I've had the privilege of working with Nancy on a new initiative. We are founding members of a working group on women's sports policy. All of us support the Equality Act, but are eager to craft legislation that will continue to protect the legacy of Title IX and the gains that have been made under it, while promoting a middle ground policy based on science that will accommodate transgender individuals in sports. We are the only group focused on this approach. We have been meeting every Wednesday night on Zoom for over a year. I have loved the connection with Nancy and our colleagues and have been more than inspired by her ability to juggle her family life, her legal obligations, and her many passions. Even when she contacted COVID, it was Nancy who only missed one meeting. She has never shied away from speaking truth to power, no matter what the cost, and all of us have benefited from her leadership. She is a woman of purpose and just simply one of a kind. It is now my honor to introduce Nancy Hogshead-Makar, a lawyer, an Olympian, a champion for all, the 26th recipient of the Miriam M. Netter 72 Stoneman Award, and the keynote speaker. Nancy?
Oh. I'm just going to let that sink in for just a bit. Donna, thank you so much for that very, very generous introduction. I really appreciate it coming from a good friend like you. I'm going to talk more about you in just a second. First, I really wanted to thank Melissa Berger and Jeff Sieber for their fantastic organizing skills, and the other award winners, Judge Clark and Donna Young. Congratulations to you as well. I'm glad to be winning this with you. And of course, Donna, for that amazing introduction. What a perfect time to win this award, right when American women are demanding equal treatment in the NCAA. Sedona Price's TikTok has been seen 17 million times, highlighting the second-class treatment or third or fourth-class treatment that the NCAA heaps on women's NCAA basketball tournament, not limited to weights, but also medical care, food, housing, travel, every measurable way. I do hope that the Committee on Women's Equity will take up sex discrimination in New York colleges and university with data that Champion Women's website called Title IX, TITLEIX schools.com that we made with Janine Kistner. I hope she's here. She's got a 4-year-old son she had to pick up. But Janine Kistner's the math data whiz behind us being able to look at every school in the country and be able to tell whether or not the school is providing equal opportunities, equal scholarship dollars, and equal treatment. So I think if Kate Stoneman were alive today, that she would champion these efforts as well. When Donna Deverona came to speak at the 1984 Olympic team, she talked about how important that there was this law, Title IX, and how it was in peril. I was a women's studies major at Duke, and I knew about Title IX, but I did not know that it was in peril, and I didn't know what I could do. But the US Supreme Court had ruled that the statute prohibited the school from discriminating against sex in just the part of the school that received that federal funds, not in the overall programming. So the housing department, the math department, and the sports department were now not covered by Title IX. So I knew that that federal law had changed my life. And I want to make sure that it continued in perpetuity. Not too many people know that actually Title IX got passed twice. The first time in 1972 and the second time in 1988. It had to get passed again. The first time, nobody was really thinking about sports. But the second time, sports was the motivating factor behind it. Sports is what pushed the statute along. So Donna Deverona taught me just enough so that when somebody had a microphone in my vicinity, I could rattle off Title IX and how it had changed the game for women in sports. So we were athletes using our platform for women long before there was social media. Women who were just a few years older than I was, so I'll be 59 this April, but women who were just a few years older did not get college scholarships. So they had my same credentials. They were Olympians, they were world record holders, no college scholarships. And usually their careers ended after high school, not because they weren't still improving, but there just weren't enough opportunities. Interestingly enough, they were told that the reason why that women didn't compete in college was because their bodies quit improving. That after the age of 18, women stopped improving. Seriously, that was the common conventional wisdom at the time. So in addition to all the typical lessons that somebody learns participating in sports, how to win, how to lose, how to postpone short-term gratification for long-term rewards, how to be part of a team, how to create community. My swimming career was also an enormous place for healing. As Donna said, when I was 19 years old, I was brutally raped. It was about halfway through my athletic career. And I had a terrible case of what we now would know as PTSD. There wasn't really a name for it back in 1981. But I've learned a lot about PTSD since then. There's a great book by Bessel van der Kolk called The Body Keeps the Score. And he has all these ways of how people can heal from PTSD that don't involve pharmaceutical remedies. And it turns out that hard physical exercise working to exhaustion is a remedy for the brain's overactive, like can't calm down. The disorder that wouldn't let me sleep peacefully, wouldn't let me walk alone, that made me hypervigilant. In addition, there's another thing that his book talked about, which is under the water, I could cry hard. I could be really, really angry. And then I would use that energy to go faster in my career. So I relived the rape over and over again, but this time I had a machete. So this time when he would come and he'd be jogging towards me on that road, I could slice and dice and I could revel in sort of blood flying everywhere. And this is all very socially unacceptable for me to tell you or to reenact here. But you can imagine under the water that there was a safe place, that I was able to do that. It turns out that, once again, this is a very common technique that therapists use to regain a sense of control over their life. So it's no wonder when we think about what a sports experience give to girls and women, and I give to people, frankly, is it's no wonder that when a dictator comes to a country, and one of the first things that they try to do is to keep girls and women out of sports. If you want to disempower them, keep them from feeling powerful in their own bodies. You know, the most important thing that I got out of my career is not those gold medals. It is who that made me be. For those of you that don't know, I think I probably trained at like the worst time ever to train, because in my era, we did a ton of yardage. I trained about 20,000 yards a day, which is just under 13 miles. It takes about 800 laps. It's about 2 hours in the morning and 2 hours at night. The most important thing that I learned is a sense of giftedness, a sense of beauty and mastery, of being, of feeling like swimming's not doing me, or excuse me, I'm not doing swimming, swimming's doing me. It is this amazing feeling that you don't have to win gold medals to get that feeling. Those of you who do yoga or have a running practice, right? You all have this experience of feeling beautiful and strong and masterful that that I don't know if you get if you haven't gone through the tough times. But it was sort of this, it gave me purpose to what it was that I was doing. So assuring the Title IX applied to athletics motivated me to become an intern at the Women's Sports Foundation in the summer of 1985. So imagine what a freaky life it was, because in the weekends, I was off like giving speeches and, you know, having parades named after me. And then on the weekday, I was like filing. I was writing letters to donors who were giving money. From there, I was off to the races, and I went onto the board, and then vice president, president, board of stewards, legal advisor, senior director of advocacy. Most of that work was as a volunteer. So my real job included being an attorney, a professional speaker, a tenured professor of law, teaching 6 classes a year, publishing law review articles, and now moved into CEO of my own nonprofit, Champion Women. My real job gave me the skills to be better at the volunteer work, which has turned into my profession. Champion Women's focus areas, you've already heard, includes making sure that girls and women have equal opportunities in sports. I really hope that you'll go to that website. The sexual harassment and abuse stuff. Sports presents unique opportunities for pedophiles to abuse kids. Most parents assume that when their kids who are in high school or participating in any school sport, that all the protections from school would be there for them when they go into the club and Olympic sport, that 16 million that Melissa was talking about earlier. And it's not, there's not there at all. There's no general counsel position. There's no president. There's nobody's on top of the coach, if you will, from a professional perspective. A lot of times there's no insurance. So there are just, I can't tell you the difference between 2010 and today when I first got started. Title IX, this amazing statute, was passed on June 23rd, 1972, and possibly other than women's suffrage and Kate Stoneman, possibly no other piece of legislation has had a greater impact on women's lives. It was patterned after Title VI, which was passed in 1964 as part of the big omnibus civil rights bill. You know, it included the voting rights and housing and public accommodations. But when it came to education, it only included race, color, national origin. Women were specifically excluded from that statute. So the exact same statute got passed in 1972, except they took out the words race, color, national origin and put in the word sex. I'd like for you all to think about how many times that you've all heard that Title IX is controversial. but you almost never hear that about Title VI. Title VI makes sure that if a school, Title IX and Title VI make sure that if a school receives federal funds, which is our tax dollars, that in exchange, it agrees not to discriminate. After that, age discrimination and ability was passed after that. So the Office of Civil Rights oversees those 4 statutes: race, color, national origin, sex discrimination, ability, and the Rehabilitation Act, and age discrimination. So that simple piece of legislation has had a powerful impact on American society through its expansion of educational opportunities for women. Title IX cracked the barriers at the foundation of women's inability to have equal opportunity to pursue economic and social advancement through education. And sport is an important part of education. So, true story. I actually tried not to be a gender equity advocate. That's right. Why? Because people would try to argue with me at cocktail parties. They rebelled against even the idea of equity for women in sports. It was exhausting to be answering the bros all the time. But all that responding, it actually fueled me and it made me better at it. So first, let me tell you that I have 2 traits that drive my beloved husband nuts. One is that I'm competitive. Duh, you're thinking, but like my competitiveness actually keeps me from being a normal person and like being able to go swim and like just go and enjoy it. Oh, no, because like after the 3rd practice and somebody's going faster than I am, I just can't stand it. And before I know it, my husband is complaining about my priorities and pointing to our 3 kids. So winning needs to be built into whatever it is that I'm doing. And that's one of the main reasons why I love the law, why I love being a lawyer. Second, I'm overly optimistic. I just think that I can do it, no matter how high the mountain. So duh, you're probably thinking, because I thought I could win in the Olympics. And it drives my husband nuts because I think that I can make a dent in these intractable problems. I tend to start off thinking that I'll do this small little bit of work and it'll be easy. And it ends up being white papers and petitions and testifying in front of Congress and drafting model legislation and fundraising and more petitions and a book and years of coordinating thousands of people until I finally win. So the timeline for how long it takes, I just tend to think it'll just be this one thing and that I'm going to win. When I first got in 2010, when I first got involved in the issue of sexual abuse in the Olympic movement, I honestly thought like, oh, they just don't know how bad it is. I have been working with schools on sexual violence in campuses. We can just apply those same principles over here to the Olympic movement, and it will be easy. So, okay, a little crazy, but it's taken us all this time, and frankly, we're not done yet. There's still a lot of work to be done. So the U.S. Center for Safe Sport, yay, it opened up in 2017, but I did write the first model of what the institution should look like back in 2013. After the first piece of legislation passed in 2018, the Protecting Young Victims from Sexual Abuse and Safe Sport Authorization Act, I ran downstairs to my son and I cried on his chest and I said, someday you're going to remember this moment more than you're going to remember me trying to work after dinner. And I think he would agree now. The second piece was just passed this fall. And again, it restructures the Olympic Committee. One of the good things that it does is it gives more athletes a seat on the board. And that's how Donna Deverona got to be a new member of the Olympic Committee's board of directors. So people ask me all the time for advice. I would say do the one thing that you cannot help yourself from doing. If you haven't found that work yet, that's okay. Sometimes you have to kind of create the meaning behind the work. As I said earlier, sometimes it isn't obvious. I had to create meaning for swimming 800 laps a day. So really what I was doing was looking at a black line. But what I was doing is I was fulfilling God's purpose for my life, that I was doing something that was beautiful and masterful, and I was trying to do something that nobody had ever been before. And that fueled me going and being successful. The second piece of advice I have is to create community wherever you go. I have to say that the biggest pains in my life have not been from failures in the law or cases or getting strong pushback. It's been those times when advocating for something cost me my community. It's important to take care of your community and never take them for granted. A lot of life is a slog, and having great people surround you can make almost any difficult task a lot easier. I'm still friends with my teammates, my sorority sisters, and fellow board members and former students. Even Donna Deverone is a funder of Champion Women. My best friend from age 11 is a big financial contributor to Champion Women. I wanted to real quick show you all, if I could, hold on. Can I share my screen? Here we go. Share. Okay, so everybody knows Title IX, right? Okay, no person in the United States shall, on the basis of sex, be excluded from participation in, be denied the benefits of, or be subject to discrimination under any program, educational program or activity. You'll notice this means that Title IX does not apply to the NCAA, but every school is responsible for making sure that their students are not subject to Title IX, or excuse me, are not subject to discrimination when they go to the basketball tournament. So schools are on the hook, not the NCAA. There's an effort right now to try to get the NCAA liable, to make them responsible for treating men and women equally in front of Congress. If we get that, it will be amazing. When I have been working with all these students, being a law school professor has been very helpful, because when we talk to students about how it is that they can get gender equity at their school in the athletic department. When I first rolled this program out just a year ago, when Janine and I did, there was a lot of shoulder shrugging, like, come on, there are bigger issues that are going on in college sports and just colleges. But here's why I encourage you all to do this, is that frankly, the cases are unusually easy. And why are they so easy? Because the law, the statute, the regulation, and the case law are really strong across the country. It doesn't matter what circuit court that you're in. And the facts are usually really obvious. So if somebody gets fired for race or sex discrimination, you have to show that that's why they were fired. At least it was part of the motivation as to why they were fired. Not true for athletics. It's just what is the school providing to men and what is the school providing to women? It is unusually easy. These requirements for equal participation, equal scholarships, and equal benefits and treatment have been around since 1975. There's really no reason for an athletic department not to know what the rules are. The first part that kind of gave people problems was this idea that like, well, how many opportunities do I actually need to provide somebody, or the women who are on my campus? And in 1979, they came up with this test here, and I'm going to explain why it's now really easy, that the only test that most schools can actually comply with is the first one. So the first one is proportionality, meaning student athlete population, student body population are the same. Okay, and that kind of makes sense. Like, you can't ask for any more than what the student body population is. Two is if schools can say, we're not there yet, but we have this history of continuous improvement for girls and women. Guess what? It's now been almost 50 years. as soon as they go a 4-year or 5-year gap without improving for girls and women, they lose that prong forever. And then that kind of makes sense, because imagine if it was a race type situation and a school could say, like, we know we're discriminating, but we're just not there yet, and have that actually count as compliance. It would never happen. I mean, it's kind of a quirk in the law that you have this continuous improvement, like that counts. And the third is interest and abilities. If a school can show basically they don't have anybody knocking at the door, they don't have any unmet demand. Everybody that wants to play sports is playing sports. And the reason why schools cannot comply with this prong is because so many girls and women, and boys and men too, want to participate in sports. The desire is so much stronger than what a school can possibly provide. I like to show this nasty, disgusting picture of a restroom and say, is this a civil rights issue or a hygiene issue? And when it comes to sports, you have to look at both, right? You have to look at it. If the men's room looks like the one on the left, then it's just a nasty, disgusting hygiene issue. But if it looks like the one on the right over here, then it's a civil rights issue. So that's what you have with these, because it's one of the few places that we sex segregate is in sports. And I have been saying this for 40 years. The transgender issue just came up, but it's the same thing that Donna Deverona and I have been saying for 40 years. The question is always, well, why don't you just have one basketball team and just see who makes it? And the answer is, if you want to give girls and women an equal opportunity to participate, they need their own team. So as we've been working with the transgender issue, is the enormous difference that male puberty gives somebody. And so then how do we incorporate them into girls and women's sports? How do we incorporate them into men's sports? It's a dilemma that we've really taken on. So we get our facts. This is our website right here. I looked at a few New York schools. It's not good, frankly. This is one that we prepared for Dartmouth. We are 2 sets of data. This one is from the Equity in Athletics Disclosure Act. And the second one comes from, this data here comes from what's on the rosters online. And for Dartmouth, we calculated that before the cuts, that the school needed to add 55 women. I mean, that's at least 2 teams. It's one big team if it's a sport like crew or equestrian, but for most sports, it's 2, maybe even 3 teams. It's huge. After the cuts, the Dartmouth needed to add 84 women to the athletic department. So we could confidently tell them, and we could confidently go to a law firm that was a good law firm. They were well resourced. They could go for 6 months, a year, 2 years without getting paid, right? Because Title IX fees come at the end. And we could go to them and say, we have sample everything. Would you please take this case? Most law firms have never done Title IX cases. So we help them be able to take them. When you add up all of those, 50 here, 100 here, 200 here, 300, this is how badly things are right now. Women are missing out on 183,000 opportunities, almost $1 billion in college scholarships. They're being, the treatment that they get just in one metric alone, which is recruiting dollars, it's easy to measure. It just says it right there on the EADA. It's $162 million. When we think of, Donna Deverona for a long time worked at Ernst & Young, and they had this amazing research showing that 94% of all C-suite women had a sports experience. When we know that athletes are more likely to go to college, more likely to finish college, more likely to go into the workforce, stay in the workforce, be healthier for the rest of their lives. When these 183 million or 183,000 opportunities that are being lost, we as a country are losing, and it's 50 here, 100 here, 200 here. University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill, I did go to Duke, but UNC Chapel Hill needs to add 362 women to its athletic department and $6.5 million. I just don't see they're going to do it without litigation. So when we were looking at all these numbers, I have been using the bottom two lines right here, this gray one and the blue one. I've been using those two lines in teaching this material for 30, 40 years, okay? And just every year I would just keep on adding down here. But what I wasn't doing, that I should have been doing, is looking at this pink line up here, this champion women color line up here, which is the fact that women were so many more students who are at the school. So what they were really owed was this gap here between, oops, excuse me, just moved it, between these two. Oops, boy, I messed that one up. Hold on, sorry. Okay, is this gap right here is what women were missing. So in fact, women are missing 1/3 of the opportunities that they're supposed to have. 1/3, and guess what? It's getting worse. In the past 15 years, the gap has grown by 27%. So both men and women's sports are increasing. Schools are adding sports for both men and women as in the Gestalt, the big picture, but they're growing more for men, a lot more. I just want to give you a sample of a Power 5 conference. This is the ACC. There's my school, Duke University, is not giving women $1.2 million. It's not giving women 100 opportunities, and it's missing out. Women are missing out on 1.3 million in recruiting dollars. Who this really hurts are the coaches. Women are locked out of the market for coaching men. So this really impacts their professional careers. But you can go down here and just see Clemson is denying women $3.5 million in scholarship dollars. Florida State, 3.6 million. As I said before, UNC Chapel Hill is 6.5 million. But totaling all these schools together, now remember, these are the rich schools. These are the schools that are making all the money. This is where the television revenues go, where the sponsorship money's going. And they are denying women $45 million in college scholarships. They're denying 1,400 women with an opportunity to participate. One of the things that Janine and I did was we looked around, this is a terrible slide, but here's what it represents, is that there's no place women can go in intercollegiate athletics and escape this sexism. There's no place they can go. So they can't like go to Division II. They can't go to, if I go to the Northwest, or if I go to the South, or if I go, right, they can't move geography. They can't move to the NAIA. They can't move to non-scholarship. They can't go to a school that doesn't offer football. There's nowhere to go. It is ubiquitous, the sexism that's going on in intercollegiate athletics. So I already know what a lot of you are thinking is, but come on, you know, men's sports makes all this money. Isn't that a justification for giving men more? And the answer is no. That, remember, Title IX is based on Title VI, which bars discrimination based on race, color, national origin. If a donor or a sponsor or ticket sales somehow meant that white people could use a building, but African Americans could not, of course, duh, you cannot allow a student to feel that discrimination. Again, what's unique is that sports are sex segregated. So when a donor gives to the baseball team, you're giving to men. So is it a legal defense to sex discrimination in intercollegiate athletics because the money comes from television or sponsors or donors, or because there's a COVID-19 budget crunch? Answer, no, those are not defenses to a Title IX claim. So I think you're kind of seeing like how important that, or how strong the law really is for plaintiffs. So we need to remember why it is that, you know, again, what I got out of sports was not looking at a black line. That what everybody gets out of sports is, both men and women, both young kids and older kids, is there are things that you just cannot learn on a blackboard. And there are things that they are the only after school activity that actually makes people achieve beyond what is expected. So Betsy Stevenson, at the time she was at Penn, now she's at Chicago, did phenomenal research showing that sports causes all these amazing benefits. It's not just associated with these benefits. So other after school activities, things like being in the marching band, or being in the debate team, or being the student yearbook, or being in student government, none of those equated with actually doing better the way that sports did. In closing today, I think we should always be mindful of the people of whose shoulders that we stand on. Every woman here stands on Kate Stoneman's shoulders. She was a suffragette, and she was the first woman to pass the New York bar in 1885. Her application to the bar was rejected because she was a woman, and she did what we all would do. She created a team. She worked with suffragettes to urge passage of a bill to allow both people of color and women to be admitted. As was said earlier, she was intersectional before that was popular. The bill was passed with only 9 days after her initial rejection, and that really speaks to the power that she had and the power that suffragettes had already earned. She must have had a Donna Deverona working behind the scenes. She maintained a law office in Albany for over 30 years. So I stand here today, not only on Kate Stoneman's shoulders, but on the award winners here, not just Donna Deverona's, but so many that you've probably never heard of: Donna Lopiano, Judy Sweet, Christine Grant. And I'll take this award with me into the world and use it to enable me to do more for girls and women in sports in the legal field. So I resisted being a gender equity advocate, and I still don't see enough people doing it. And trust me, it is very fun and rewarding. So I have this fear that if I don't do it, something won't happen. So I'm hoping there are new advocates out there that will be ready to take over. Thank you all very much for this award. I am deeply honored.
Nancy, for your record and extraordinary achievements and commitment to the ideals of Kate Stoneman, we are honored to present you with the 2021 Miriam M. Netter Kate Stoneman Award, which we will ship to Florida to match with your crystal bowl.
Here's my crystal bowl, which, by the way, is not here as a prop. It is always there, because this award means so much to me. Thank you, Melissa. That is beautiful.
Can we please give a round of applause? And if you're looking for the future generation, hopefully you are speaking to it, because we have a whole law school full of future advocates. And your remarks were so inspirational. And one word that you used was how this was so ubiquitous. And I couldn't agree with you more. And until inequality is not ubiquitous, then, we really, that's the work we have to do. There's work to be done, because at this point, there's inequality in every aspect of our world. And we really need to work on that inequality. And we have a lot of work to do. But there's been a lot of work that has been done by folks like you, and we thank you. And while certainly gender equality and all kinds of equality is a concept that we can all agree on theoretically, we need people like you and Kate Stoneman to personify the concept in reality. And we need others to inspire all of the law students who are listening today, who will listen, who will be our future lawyers. Kate Stoneman and her legacy remind us all how much progress we have made in equality, for equality, not inequality, but for equality. But of course, we are reminded daily how much more progress we need to make for there to be true equality under the law. Thank you for helping us get there, one small step at a time. And I think it's great that you start with one small inspirational step at a time. And if it takes you a decade, I'm sure your husband can be patient for it, because we need you to keep working at it. So on behalf of Albany Law School, we are so proud of all of our awardees. We are so happy you could join us tonight. Our only hope is that we can one day, very soon, be together again, celebrate in person again. And we just want to thank everyone for being with us tonight. We want to thank everyone for inspiring us tonight, for joining us, and let us fight to have equality more and more every day for every person. Thank you so much. We can unmute and clap.
Thanks, everybody. I'm gonna clap
Yay
in
to
for
the
other
awardees.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Welcome to the Albany Law family.
Welcome.
Congratulations.
That was probably my sister.
Good. Congratulations to everybody.
Thanks, everyone.
Great job, Melissa.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Congratulations.
Melissa, wonderful. Great zooming.
Congratulations to everybody.
You were like Katie Couric on Jeopardy as she's trying to get over the new thing. You were handling everything.
I don't know about that, but
No, absolutely. You had the board, you had everything going, and award winners, Nancy, Judge Clark. Wow, I'm ready now. I was like getting exhausted in the pandemic. I'm ready. Thank you.
Donna, you have to come back, and we're not mailing yours, Donna. You got to come get it.
Please. Yeah, well, when they open the borders,
right
there.
Yeah. Apparently, April 1st, we can travel to different states, so we can get to Florida, but we can't get to Canada quite yet. I just heard April 1st we're allowed to travel to other states. So
Donna,
I'm
you
getting my
sound
vaccine
like
tomorrow.
Oh, wonderful. Donna, you sound like the nuns from The Sound of Music. They've closed the borders. We miss you so much.
Thanks, Mary.
Hello to your family.
Some of them were here today, so.
Good.
Oh, were the boys here?
They were here. I mean, I'm not even seeing them these days. We're all isolated.
Yeah.
Even in the same city, anyway.
Yeah. And your parents, though, are close by, so you can keep tabs on them?
My Isaac is living with my parents.
Good.
Yep.
Good. Yeah,
Yep.
there's a lot of that intergenerational stuff that, well, was part of our families, but yeah.
If he didn't live with them, he'd never be able to see them.
Yes. Yeah.
So he's living.
That's great. That's great.
Yeah. It was great to see everyone. I'm off. Thank you so much, everyone.
It was great to see you. Congratulations, everybody.
Thank you for everything you've done for us.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye, Judge Clark.
Bye. Thank you. See you soon, I hope.
Yeah. Hey, Betsy.
Thank you. Wonderful program.
Thank you, Nancy.
Excellent.
Thanks,
Yes,
everybody.
Haller's still on?
Yeah, I'm like catching up with all the chats. There's quite a few chats.
Wow. Great group. And so many loyal people showing up. Nancy, that was terrific. We've been following you from afar.
Yes.
And really, I teach in the area of, not quite that area. It's more domestic violence and others, but we have been following your work, and also very interesting, the history with, I know Donna Young and